Hey, Astro Kids, and welcome back. This is your monthly horoscope for April 2021 for all water signs. So, if you are a Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, Moon, or Ascendant, this is for you. So, starting off here on the 5th of April, Jupiter will be shifting into Aquarius. And as we're coming into this month of April, there are lots of shifts that are happening. So we have some future videos to get into with some of these major shifts that are happening. Jupiter is one of the biggest, as Jupiter is a social planet. So Jupiter is a part of our society, our structure. It is the moral foundation of society at large. So, this shift from Jupiter in Capricorn into Jupiter into Aquarius is a big one that we will talk about very soon here. As we do start off this month of April, on the 1st, the moon is going to start out in Vishaka in Scorpio, and it will continue and come back around to Vishaka. But we will discuss those moon shifts when we get into the weekly horoscopes. Here we will just talk about the major transits and how they will affect you in your chart. So on the 6th of April, Mercury will come into combustion. So this is Mercury joining up with the Sun and Venus. And the Sun and Venus have been here in this sign of Pisces. Everything is shifting forward into Aries. So we'll talk more about that and how that affects your chart as well. Following that, on the 9th of April, Venus will shift into its neutral position of Aries. So Venus is neutral here because Venus finds a home in Libra, which is the opposite of Aries. So Venus is functioning quite differently in this position. And we'll talk more about this in a future video, but Venus is much more passionate, much more direct. Whereas though in Libra, it's very harmonious, it's very negotiable. So this is a very blunt and straightforward type of energy as Venus shifts forward into the sign of Aries. Following that, on the 11th, we will have a new moon in Pisces in the Revati Nakshatra. So we will talk about that in a future video as well. If you have not checked out that full moon video in the Hasta Nakshatra, make sure to check that out. That is leading towards this lunar shift that we will enter into here in the month of April. Following that, on the 13th, the sun will shift into the sign of Aries. So now we're shifting our central focus. We're shifting the season from Pisces, very daydreamy, very imaginative, of going inward, connecting to our spirituality, our creativity, to Aries, which is very individualistic, coming into ourselves, standing up for ourselves, being bold, being decisive as the sun enters into Aries. And of course, the sun is in its exaltation in the sign of Aries, with the sun being our ego, our identity, our willpower. It is strongest in this sign of Aries, very much self oriented. Following that, on the 13th, Mars will also shift into Gemini. So we talked all about this transit of Mars in Taurus and how this has affected us. Throughout this transit, Mars has been with Rahu. It will leave Rahu behind as it shifts forward into Gemini. And this becomes a very interesting position because Mars and Mercury have an interesting relationship with one another. Very neutral relationship going on between Mars and Mercury, as Mercury finds this neutral connection with Mars, and Mars is a bit of an enemy to Mercury. So, this is an interesting shift that we will come into that we'll talk about a little bit further in depth into a future video. But a lot of focus coming in on direct and straightforward communication. Following this, we will have a full moon in Libra on the 26th. So this is going to happen in the Swati Nakshatra. And we'll talk more about that as well. A lot that is focused around the things that we want out of life. Remember that we're going to have this stellium jam-packed in Aries opposing this full moon. So this is a big one that we will talk about in a future video. Also, for those of you who wanted me to add in 3 extra planets, Pluto is one that I added in, as well as on the 27th, Pluto will station retrograde. So a lot of deep internal transformation taking place as we go through this cycle. So starting off here, for those of you with a a Cancer moon or ascendant, we have Mars that is shifting into your 12th house. Very interesting. We've had this Mars sitting here in the 11th house, where many of you have been passionate about your dreams, about your goals, about what you're working towards. And now with Mars moving back into your 12th house and in Gemini, where there is a very tricky relationship going on here between Mars and Mercury, this becomes an interesting time where a lot of you are going to find yourselves more drawn inward after all of this work, all of this effort that you've been putting out. This is Mars coming into a space of rest. And so this is really about diving inward and tapping into your spirituality, into your inner world. This is also a time where you want to be careful about your health. Mars is a Manglik in the 12th house as well. So there can be some difficulties also happening as Mars is aspecting over to the 6th house and to your 7th house as well, where you could see some challenges along the lines of relationships, along the lines of your health. You can see some challenges and complications that pop up in this area. So this is a time where you want to be cautious of the things that are happening here, making sure that everything is well taken care of with this Mars that brings a lot of challenge. Now, for those of you with a Cancer ascendant, Mars is a beneficial planet for you, and it is controlling your career house. So this is very auspicious for you as far as business partnership, as far as producing creative inspiration and knowledge that you want to pour into your projects. Not so great for relationships, though. So you want to be careful with this Martian influence. Mars is also from your 12th house going to be aspecting over to your 4th house as well. So there is a little bit of disturbance in your inner peace that can happen at this time. This is a time where, again, you want to find that space to go inward, to disconnect a little bit, to tap into your spiritual world for this releasing, this recharging that needs to take place here. Mars can definitely bring some challenges and difficulties for those of you with a Cancer ascendant. Now, also, we have this big stack of planets here in Pisces, back in your 9th house, that is all shifting into Aries in your 10th house. So, once again, big time for your career, for your business life. A lot that you have learned and developed and have processed over time. So, all of the skills, all the knowledge that you've gathered, time to apply this towards your mission, towards your plan, towards where you're going. This can really bring you into a position of high status, especially with the sun that is going to be spending this whole transit of this Aries season in your 10th house of career. Remember that the sun is directionally strong in the 10th house. The sun in the sun is at its brightest in the 10th house, right? That is the middle of the day. So the sun being a planet that deals with authority and leadership coming into that 10th house of career is very powerful. A lot that you can step up to and see as far as creating and building and putting things together in your projects. This is Venus and Mercury that will be joined along with the sun. So, a lot of creative influence and intellect that you can use to really build the things that you want up in your career life. From that 10th house, this stellium is going to be aspecting over to your 4th house as well. Once again, you're going to have to find a balance between your work and your need for rest and recharge. This is a huge theme for those of you here with a Cancer moon or Cancer ascendant. We also have Jupiter that's going to be sitting back in that seventh house of Capricorn and shifting forward into your eighth house. Big shift. Jupiter, that's been sitting here in this seventh house, has had a huge focus on partnership, on business dealings, on relationships. As it moves into the eighth house, things become much more deeper. This is an area where you may have to manage shared resources more closely. This is a time where you may have to manage teamwork more closely on a deeper level. So, Jupiter coming into the eighth house, really giving this deeper insight and deeper wisdom and deeper focus that really needs to go in on anything that is shared or done in private coming here in the month of April. There is a lot of hidden knowledge that can come up to the surface that can affect your finances, that can affect your stability. So, making sure that you're keeping all these things in check. Jupiter from that eighth house is going to aspect over to your second house of your family, of your resources. And so, you can find yourself in situations where you are having some changes, some fluctuation, where you are needing to support your family. Pluto is also going to station retrograde in that seventh house for you. So, once again, lots of changes around partnership, around business that can take place here. A lot of growth and transformation that a lot of you are going through with this Pluto retrograde. So this is a big area of focus to look at here, really, as far as the changes and shifts that are happening. A lot of you, these shifts in your partnership are affecting you directly. So a lot of you can be leaving partnerships, you can be coming into new partnerships with this activation of Pluto. Big time to rethink any sort of business or partnership at this time. We're also going to have a new moon happening back in your ninth house. So, this is where this stellium of planets is shifting from. And this new moon, once again, will be in Pisces in the Ravati Nakshatra. So, this is a huge time for, once again, going inward, self reflecting, gaining some higher wisdom and insight. So, for a lot of you, this is a spiritual time. This is a time to focus on your spiritual practices of going inward. And from this, a lot of you are gaining some new wisdom, some new insight, once again, that can help you to progress into your business, into your projects, into your growth overall. The full moon will also be happening in your fourth house. And so there is a huge blessing around your family, around your inner peace. And this is a time where a lot of you are going to be reflecting and releasing things that no longer serve you. From that fourth house, the full moon is going to aspect over to your 10th house. Once again, a lot of happiness coming out of your career life for a lot of you who are moving forward in various of different ways. Once again, some of you are changing partnerships, some of you are leaving partnerships, some of you are moving into partnerships, some of you are building partnerships on a deeper level, and these things affecting your overall growth and happiness coming forward. Now, as far as the cards go, our first card here is air. So there's a big focus once again on the knowledge, on the intellect, on the skills that you can use. And the communication, once again, Mars is going to be activating that third house for you. So this is a huge time. And with all of those planets coming into your ninth house and a new moon, big time for you to use your communication and your intellectual skills, your creativity to work towards the project, to work towards the things that you want to put out. Especially for those of you who are working in fields dealing with communication, dealing with publishing, dealing with writing, all of these things where you can use your actual skills and knowledge to perfect your craft. So this is a huge time for business, a time for advancement for a lot of you. Once again, with the sun card here, big focus on leadership as the sun will be in its exaltation in your 10th house. Very powerful, where a lot of you are stepping up, you're moving up. You can even take on leadership roles at this time. But for many of you, you are simply stepping up in your leadership capabilities. So, big impact in your career life. And of course, from that 10th house, this is the sun aspecting over to your fourth house. So, a lot of happiness coming through from this growth, this stepping up as far as your career goes. Also, we have the seventh house card. Once again, huge focus there with a Pluto retrograde and Saturn that is there in your seventh house as well, but Jupiter that is leaving and moving on to your eighth house. Lots of things going on surrounded around partnerships as far as business. This can also affect you romantic relationship wise, but for the most part, this is business that is being impacted here. Moving forward, we have the fifth house as well. So, once again, very creative time for you to use your skills, to use your knowledge, to use your creativity to advance towards your goals, towards the things that you want to accomplish. And our last card here is the ninth house, making sure that you're having faith and staying true to what you are producing. So, once again, that ninth house is going to be heavily activated. All these planets are leaving your ninth house and moving on to your 10th, but we will also have a new moon in that ninth house. So, this is a big time of leaning towards your higher knowledge, your higher understanding. Once again, a lot of you using your teaching, using your skills, using what you've learned, and having faith in that, holding that up in value to use this towards your goals, towards the things that you're working towards. So that was your April 2021 horoscope for those of you with a Cancer ascendant or moon. Let's go ahead and move forward here to those of you with a Scorpio moon or ascendant. So, starting off here, for those of you with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio ascendant, we have a whole stack of planets here in your fifth house that's all moving on to your sixth house. Big time for career and purpose. We have Mercury, Venus, and the Sun that has been sitting here back in your fifth house, where there's been a lot of creativity, a lot of working towards a project, working towards a goal. And now, as all of this shifts forward into your sixth house, this becomes about your purpose. This becomes about really putting in the discipline, putting in the work, putting in the effort to make this a reality. You want to be careful though with Mercury and Venus coming into this sixth house. Remember that the sixth house is a very difficult house, especially with Aries being your Mullatricone sign here in this sixth house. Many of you have the strength to overcome difficulties, but you still attract difficulties with this Aries energy. Mercury and Venus coming into this sixth house, this becomes a huge time of using your communication skills, using your connection skills to make things happen. So, once again, with all of this energy here coming into Aries, a lot of you are going to be stepping up. You're going to be more direct. You're going to be more focused on your purpose, on your destiny, on your mission with all of this coming in, especially though with the sun that will be coming into this sixth house also. From the sixth house, this will all be aspecting over to your 12th house. Want to be careful with health. With Venus there in the sixth house, there can be any sort of addiction towards sweets, towards things that are pleasurable with Venus coming into the sixth. Also, with Mercury there, you can see some slight changes happening as well. So, I want to be careful with anything regarding this. With the sun there, this can also heat some things up as well. This is an exalted sun, very powerful. So, you want to watch out for anything involving heat and tension with this moving into the sixth house. But this gives a great deal of leadership skills for those of you with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio ascendant. Also, we're going to have a new moon happening in this sixth house as well. So, this becomes a huge time where you can see new chapters taking place in your work life as well. New things popping up, new challenges, new opportunities, new things to take on that are taking place here moving forward in the month of April. From that position, it will aspect over to the 12th house. So maybe some of you are thinking about traveling, you're thinking about going in isolation, you're thinking about connecting more with your spirituality. So all of these things can come into play as well. But big time where many of you are releasing some major challenges and struggles with this aspect over to the 12th. We also have Mars that has been sitting here in your seventh house and it's now moving on to your eighth house. Big time where you can see some shifts and changes take place. New challenges and obstacles can come up during this time. But remember that you have Mercury controlling your eighth house. And so anything goes as Mars shifts into this eighth house. You can have positive and negative results. Mercury is shifting things up. So you want to pay attention to where Mercury is actually positioned in your chart. With Mars coming into the eighth house, though, there can be sudden accidents, sudden changes that take place that you want to pay close attention to. Mars is also going to be aspecting over to your second house. So this can be a time of getting some advancement in income and wealth and security coming forward. So, some sudden things can happen here in terms of your actual wealth and security as well. Jupiter, that has been sitting here in your third house for some time, is shifting forward into your fourth house. So, this is a huge time of some big shifts and changes happening. A lot of you are getting some good results depending on where Jupiter is actually positioned in your chart. But with Jupiter controlling your second and fifth house and moving into your fourth house of happiness and inner peace, big shift taking place here. And for a lot of you, this is being affected by your career, by your status, with Jupiter aspecting over to that 10th house as well. Pluto is also going to station retrograde in your third house. So there can be some major changes happening in terms of your thinking, where many of you can go internally and see some shifts happening with this Pluto retrograde. We're also going to have a full moon back in your 12th house, major release time for those of you with a Scorpio ascendant or Scorpio moon. This is a full moon in the Swati Nakshatra happening back in the 12th house. Remember that the 12th house is a house of losses and expenditure. So, this is a time where a lot of you are releasing something old that no longer serves you. And for many of you, this could have to do with some challenges, some difficulties, some obstacles that you've had in the past, with this aspect over to your sixth house as well. Remember that Mars is going to be in your eighth house. So you could see some major shifts and changes happening with that sixth house activation. Now, Mars from that position of the eighth house is also going to aspect over to your third house. And so you can see some advancement once again happening in your career, also with the aspect over to your 11th house. So this can be a time once again where you're receiving some gains, you're receiving some leveling up in your career. Now let's take a look at the cards. We have the first house. So this is a huge time where you are transforming yourself. Again, we have this Pluto retrograde going on in your seventh house, aspecting back over to your first house. I'm sorry, from your third house, aspecting over to your ninth house. So this has been a huge time of learning, of growth, of advancement for a lot of you. This is a big shift that is taking place with all of this activation that is going on in this arena. We also have, of course, K2 that's in your first house, still going through this change, this shift in yourself that is majorly affecting your relationships. Following that, we have the 10th house. Again, big time for career, big time for your work, for your advancement, for your status. We have the Destiny card as well. Again, many of you are moving forward towards a goal that you've had for a long time now. Something that you've been working very hard at is coming into fruition here in the month of April for a lot of you with a Scorpio moon or Scorpio ascendant. A lot of growth, a lot of gains that can come out of this. Again, you want to pay attention to where your planets are positioned, but Jupiter can bring you a lot of success. So let's go ahead and move forward to those of you with a Pisces moon or Pisces ascendant. So starting off here, we have this big stellium of Mercury, Venus, and the Sun that's been sitting here in your first house. It's going to shift forward into your second house of Aries. You want to be careful here about spending. This is a combust Venus on top of a combust Mercury, two planets that are associated with business and money. So you want to be careful here as far as spending, as far as splurging with all of this second house activation. With the sun in its exaltation of Aries, this is a big time for you to actually speak up for yourself, to be direct, to tap into those leadership skills and qualities that many of you have as well with this Aries second house. From that position, this will all be aspecting over to your eighth house. So this is a huge time where you can see some major shifts take place due towards your work, due towards your speech, due towards the effort that you put into some of these major shifts that are happening into your life. We are also going to have a new moon going on in your first house as well. You are entering a new phase of your life, a new phase of your life that has to do with your worth, your security. This is a new moon in Ravati, where this is a big time for you to step into your dreams, step into your calling. Remember that Ravati is symbolized by the fish. This is all about your dreams and bringing it into reality. From that position, it will aspect over to your seventh house. And so you can see a lot of shifts happening that affect your relationships. For a lot of you, you are shifting into a new phase. And so this can take your partner into a new phase, or this could potentially create some detachment as well. You could be leaving a partner, moving on to a new phase as well. Mars, that has been sitting here in your third house, is shifting forward into your fourth house. This is a huge time to use your intellect, to use your skills that you have in a huge way to work towards your goals, to work towards your business, the things that you'd like to accomplish. Again, a lot of you are shifting into a new phase in your life, and so this is your time to reflect inward on the things that you need to work towards, on the things that you're going to put energy into. Remember that Mars is all about energy and drive. So this is time to tap into that and to put it in the right direction. From that fourth house, Mars is going to aspect over to your 10th house, affecting your status, your career, where you are in your life in a big way. Once again, you are entering into a brand new phase. We have a full moon that is happening in your eighth house. So, this is a big time, once again, of shifts and changes happening within yourself. You're going through major transformations during this time. So, this is a big time of releasing anything that is no longer serving you. Any doubts, any worries, any fears, any difficulties with this eighth house activation. We also have Jupiter, which is shifting from your 11th house into your 12th house. So, this is a big time of going inward, making those necessary changes again with Jupiter back in that 12th house. This is a very spiritual time. Jupiter is your ruler going into your 12th house of spirituality. It is time to go inward. It's time to reflect on the things that need change. It's time to evaluate and see what knowledge do you need to move forward to the next step. So, taking that time, taking that quiet, taking that inward reflection to go within. Pluto is also going to station retrograde in your 11th house. Again, the people who you're connecting to can change dramatically depending on the inward changes that you're going through. So, as you're advancing, some of the people who you're connected to can change drastically. And in other cases, you may have to leave some people behind to move forward along your journey as well. But with Pluto in that 11th house, this is a big change in your gains, in the things that you will receive and benefit from. This is Pluto also aspecting back over to your fifth house of creativity. Again, this is a huge time where you are making changes, adjustments that are true to what you are working towards what you are willing to put your energy and time into. Now, let's take a look at the cards. Our first card here is Taurus. Once again, you are working towards your purpose and calling, staying true to what is aligned with your path. So this is a big time to stay focused, to stay determined in your mission, in your calling, in your direction that you're moving into. In Neptune, there, making sure that you're only sacrificing the things that are needed, making sure that you're only putting in the time and the space for the things that need to be nurtured according to your purpose, according to the things that hold value along your journey. And once again, with the solar eclipse there, this is time to take a chance. This is a time where you're moving into a brand new direction, major shifts. And for a lot of you with Aquarius here as well, it's time to go inward. It's time to look at what are your true hopes and dreams? What is your true purpose, your true calling? Remember that Aquarius is controlled by Rahu and it is ruling over your 12th house. Major inner knowing about your purpose and destiny. So staying true to that, making sure that you understand the direction that you're going in and that it is not for anyone else, but for your soul alone, for your purpose, for your connection to the collective as a whole. So that was your April 2020 horoscope for Pisces, Ascendant, or Moon. And this was your April 2021 horoscope for all water signs. I hope you all enjoyed this. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like as well as a comment. If you are new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button along with the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any new content. If you are interested in learning more about Vedic astrology, there is a link down below in the description, along with the comments for my course on Vedic astrology that is available in the Facebook group Astrology Lessons with Daquan Jones and on Patreon as well. If you have any additional questions, anything that you'd like me to talk about in a future video as far as Vedic astrology goes, feel free to leave that down below in the comments as well. I hope you all have a great day, and I want to thank you all so much for joining. I will see you in the next video.